Thank you for joining us for day 2 of our Colonial Williamsburg tour. You'll stop by the visitor center, get a map, get on the bus, and be on your way. Our first stop on our second day touring Williamsburg was the public jail. Our son has a fascination with jails, and he loved this. The public jail was where people were held while they were awaiting trial and punishment, or even waiting to be hanged. Perhaps the most notorious inmates here were pirates that served under Blackbeard and were captured with him in 1718. We came upon this old cemetery just outside the Capitol building. Walking along in Williamsburg, we saw a reenactment of a wedding.
I pour the libation in honor of the future for the children. Thanks. Now, this is your opportunity to say what you will to one another.
It was here that Jacob, the groom, gave his kerchief to Fanny, and she in turn did the same for him.
It would be like she was there with me, because it was made from an old lady purse. So now, I'll give it to you, and when we're apart from each other, you wear it. That way you know that I'm right there with you.
Now, I'm going to take this broom, and I'm going to place it right here. And Jacob and Fanny are going to jump this broom when we count to 3. They will no longer be 2 individuals, but they will be one in love. Community, let's count to 3 together. 1, 2, 3, jump! Yes!
I'm gonna lay down my ground and by. Study no more.
Jacob! What are you doing? You ought to be getting your affairs in order.
These are my affairs, Mr. Evans. Fanny is now my wife.
This doesn't change anything. You'll still have to move to Richmond tomorrow. This marriage is not legally binding, and I can't take your so-called wife with me. She belongs to someone.
I know, Mr. Evans.
We were told that weddings like this would happen often back then, and one would go to war and then never see their spouse again.
Wife, spend some time with your wife. But you will be ready to depart tomorrow at break of day.
We then got to tour Raleigh Tavern, which was quite popular in Williamsburg.
So welcome to the public dining room here at the Raleigh Tavern. This is a space that would have been kind of the great equalizer of the 18th century. As long as you had written permission to be here, you could literally find anyone in this room. Everyone from Robert Carter III, who sits on the governor's council, all the way to an enslaved person doing business for their master, and everyone in between.
So would like the famous politicians from the Capitol come down here?
Oh yeah, all the time. All the time. They'll come in, they'll enjoy a good meal, good drink. Some of them have preferences. George Washington famously preferred to eat at Christiana Campbell's, which is opposite Capitol, but he preferred to stay at the Brick House Tavern. So, and that's the other thing, you don't have to do everything at the same time.
Back in the Colonial Williamsburg days, taverns were a place where people could come, eat, stay overnight, and it was a place where people could gather. It wasn't just a bar like we think of today.
So this is the Daphne room.
The architecture and the history in these old buildings are beyond amazing. They had a bake shop out back where you could go and buy fresh baked goods. Then we came to the brickyard where they still make bricks today.
Yeah, we make the bricks here for different reconstruction projects here in Colonial Williamsburg, repair work, and occasionally we do sell them as well. But yeah, that's our clay over there, the brown stuff. All makes a red brick when you cook it though. It's just the iron in the clay that's oxidizing. So we'll start actually production up at some point next month. Okay, we can't have any kind of temperature close to freezing at night. There's so much water in the material. If you get a freeze overnight, the bricks will just crack.
Then we came to the blacksmith shop, which was fully operational just as it was in colonial days. They still make things by hand here every day.
So he's working on a tool that our brickmakers order. So this is a clay tile mold. So the brickmakers ordinarily they make bricks, but sometimes they get thrown other things made clay to work on. So clay tile for a roof, not much different than a brick, just much flatter and made of a finer grade of clay. So what he's essentially making is a frame that will be the shape of the clay tile that they will press the clay into, and then they can pull it out and repeat the process.
Then we walked through the book bindery. It was so interesting to see how this was done. Then we walked through the print shop where they did all of their publications. Can you imagine having to typeset each letter? This was a painstakingly slow process, to say the least. Then we walked through the leather shop where they made shoes and leather breeches.
Into. That's perfect because when you put your foot into your shoe, you're going to sweat into it. It'll actually mold to your foot and be a perfect fit for you. Right? Really great for shoes. Do you think that would make good leather breeches? No, you'd walk around like a little Lego man.
We took a self-guided tour through the African American Baptist Meeting House history, and it told the history of the slaves and the free blacks that met outside of Williamsburg, and then they built a brick church within Williamsburg. The brick church was opened in 1855, and this is a photograph of that church. The cool thing is now they are rebuilding that church on the very place where it stood.
Here, these bricks are where that original first meeting house was located. We plan to reconstruct that meeting house between now and 2026.
This was amazing to see, and it's supposed to be finished around 2026. You can actually see where the archaeologists have been digging and the artifacts that they have found from their dig. It will be reconstructed just as it was in this photograph of the original building. Another very interesting site that we saw was the Williamsburg Bray School. It's the oldest building dedicated to the education of Black children, and it's being relocated from the College of William and Mary to Williamsburg. This next place was our definite favorite, and it was the White House. It's the historic house on the Palace Green in Colonial Williamsburg. It was built in the 1750s. It was the home of George White, the signer of the Declaration of Independence. There were several outbuildings that we got to see, including a laundry and a kitchen. And this is where they did the work, and also the slaves lived in these quarters as well. Then we got to go inside and tour this magnificent home. First, we were taken upstairs to an office. This office served as the headquarters for George Washington just prior to the siege of Yorktown. Talk about history, if these walls could talk. George White's signature from September the 8th, 1772. Then we got to tour all of the upstairs bedrooms, and we were told that the wallpaper was not original, but it was period correct. As you can see, they loved their wallpaper, and they loved big, bright, bold colors. Then we got to tour the dining room and the front sitting room. Just seeing all of this ornate woodwork and all of the built-ins, this house was absolutely amazing. Colonial Williamsburg is such a great place to experience history. If you've never been, we highly recommend a visit. If you'd like to see more of the historic triangle, click the playlist that just popped up on your screen.